Welcome to week 2 of our little experiment, Write Your Book Along With Us. You might remember last week we asked the question, why do you want to write your book? That's the most important question. What's the purpose? Your book has to be a means to an end. The book should not be an end in itself, especially in the area of business, personal development, self-help, which is, I hope, the area that you're trying to create your book in. We also looked at the big challenge facing you, and most of you seem to think in the comments and the messages that I've had that it's about managing the time. We can certainly help you to manage the time and manage the process, especially if you keep track with us and do the work along with us. If you remember, we talked about 3 phases to getting your book out. The first phase, where we are right now, is creating content. Second phase, that's much further down the track, is managing the production of the book and the printing. And the third phase, which is important, marketing the book, making sure it gets into the hands of the community, of the audience that you want to serve. So last week we talked specifically about the title of the book, how important that is. We talked about getting a website up, or at least reserving your domain name. We talked about a table of contents. I hope you've got your table of contents. If you haven't, you're falling behind. Get your title sorted, working title, get your table of contents sorted, really important. It will drive forward the rest of this process. We talked about getting a cover, and I showed you some of the early mock-ups for our cover. We won't be looking at that again this week. We'll pick up on that next week. We talked about the cover blurb. That's really important. If you've got in your head the title of the book and what the book is supposed to achieve, the outcomes in the cover blurb, that's going to help keep you on track, especially in this week and next week, the research phase. If you know where you're going, then it will streamline everything. Trust me. That's about it. Internal design, what's for sale. We talked about what's for sale. What are you trying to, what journey are you trying to take your customers, your clients, the audience that you want to serve on? Where ultimately do you want them to end up as a client, or is it something more abstract than that? We'll talk more about that downstream a little bit later on. That was briefly, though, what happened last week. If you don't remember any of this, if you haven't done the work, go back and check out last week's live stream. In this week, I want to talk about content creation. Week 2 of your book journey is about the start of content creation. We can't do it all in 1 week, but we can really break the back of what it's for, what it's to do. A lot of the research is likely to be in your head or in the documents that you have on your machines, your laptops, your phones, your filing cabinet. If you're old school like me, I've got a filing cabinet in the corner. So content starts with what you know, but there's also updating what you know to make sure that you really are cutting edge and that you're not drawing on 20 years experience, or rather the experience of 20 years ago. You've got to be drawing on your current experience as it matters to your community right now, and you have to plug any gaps in your knowledge. You also have to maybe define or describe, or at least touch on things that you don't agree with, so that you can nudge your clients, customers, the audience away from them later on. But you must start the process trying to ensure that you're fair in this research process. You're sharing your expertise, but you're also sharing other people's expertise. So, step 1. I think you need to identify what I call research conversations. Who are you going to talk to in this research phase that will plug those gaps in your knowledge, that will bring you up to date, that will help you address the other side of the argument to keep you completely fair and balanced? And I think you need to be thinking about 20 research conversations. Over the next 3 to 4 weeks, you need to identify and speak to 20 people, roughly. It can be fewer if you really don't need to speak to many people. It could be more than that. One of our books, CEO's Journey, we interviewed 80 people for. It was really important to reach not only the family of a particular group of people, but their customers, their clients, government, a whole range of different people. But as a start point for you right now, this week, I want you to list out, create a spreadsheet, 20 names of people you want to speak to. Could be people you already know, could be people that you don't know, could be people that you aspire to get to meet and work with the icons in your industry, the rock stars in your industry. It's a great way, having a book to write, it's a great way to introduce yourself to the people that you want to meet. You send them a quick email to say, I'm writing a book on this, this is the topic, you're an expert in this area, could we spend 30 minutes or an hour together on the phone, whatever. And of course they can be anywhere in the world, and you could do a phone call, you could do a Skype call. I absolutely recommend that you record the call. We'll talk a little bit more about that later on. So case studies, examples, in addition to your 20 research conversations, your 20 interviews, you also ought to be thinking, have you got any amazing examples, people that you've already helped? Now, it's not to say how brilliant you are, but case studies are fantastic examples because they demonstrate your expertise. If you remember, we talked about one of the reasons for writing a book is to showcase your expertise. You do that in the case studies and examples that you share. So identify 4 or 5 of the people that you have helped, have served over the last few years, and tell their stories. So separately, you need to talk to them if you haven't already, and make sure they're comfortable with you, including their story, their success story in your book, because you need their permission to share their story. You may have all the information, but it's not a bad idea to interview them anyway, because it'll bring it right up to date. And the more clear blue water there is between where they are now and your original intervention, then the more successful they're likely to be by this stage. So think about some of the clients that you've served, some of the individuals, some of the organizations. Get an interview in the diary right now. So at the moment in week 1 of content creation, partly we're trying to just list them out into an Excel spreadsheet. I can't speak anymore. Case studies and examples. Now, I mentioned that I urge you to record those, because if you record an interview, let's say a 30-minute telephone interview or a 30-minute face-to-face interview, then that's going to be in the region of 4,000 to 5,000 words spoken. And you will not be able to take notes fast enough to get everything down, and to get everything down securely, safely, accurately, and in the voice of the person that you're interviewing. So I urge you, get hold of an MP3 recorder. I'll dig one out. I think I've got one just here. I'll certainly put a link to the ones I recommend in the notes to this video. So you need to get hold of an MP3 recorder because you want to record your interviews. Secondly, each week that you do a bunch of interviews, you need to get them transcribed. Now, unless you've got a friendly, helpful elf who can transcribe them for you, you're going to need to sort out somebody to get those transcriptions done. Now, I recommend a service called Upwork, UPWORK, upwork.com. Let me just switch over to here and show you what is on the Upwork site. If you go to the Upwork site, I'm not getting a... Here we go. Upwork. It's a site where you can hire freelancers in all kinds of different categories. So take a quick look at the site, look at how it works. Basically what happens is you type into this central piece here what type of work you need done: proofreading, transcribing. Let's go for transcribing. Transcribing. It'll sort out your spelling for you. Within transcription, what skills are needed to complete this project? You want somebody to be good with Microsoft Word, so they can type it into Microsoft Word. English spelling, English grammar. To be honest, you know, some of the people who are going to be the best at this are people based in the Philippines, partly because they have amazing English and their skills are awesome. And they're also, certainly for me here in London, they're on the other side of the planet. So if I ship out an MP3 of an interview that I did yesterday or today, they might work overnight and I could have it in the morning. So the timing for me works really great to have someone on the other side of the planet do my transcription. Once you've found, let's do it. Let's actually do it, Stephen. Transcription. Get started. What? Get your spelling right, Stephen. Transcription. Microsoft Word. English spelling, English grammar. Don't need anybody involved in proofreading at this stage. This is not a proofreading exercise. English punctuation, let's put it in. Click next. How long do you expect this project to last? Could be 3 to 6 months, but could be one. I'm going to be bold here and say 1 to 3 months. Next, what time commitment is needed for this project? It's going to be 20 interviews of an hour or so each. My expectation is that my interviews are going to last an average of an hour. Some will be a little longer, some will be a little less. So I don't know that it's going to be more than 30 hours a week. I don't know if it's going to be less than 30 hours a week, but you can say I'll decide later. The reason for asking this is they are looking for you to post a large project on here because more people will bid on the project. I'll decide later. What is your desired experience level? Entry level, looking for lowest rates. Intermediate, a mix of experience and value. Expert, willing to pay the highest rates for the most experience. If this is your first experience of Upwork or a freelance site, then I would go intermediate. Click next. Type in your name and an email address. What happens is then you then become have an account. What I urge you to do is to create a 1-minute MP3 file. Pull out your phone. I have it here somewhere. Pull out your phone, get the audio note thing, and record a 1-minute example of you speaking. It doesn't have to be fancy. It can just be you talking. Read the page in a newspaper or page from the BBC blog. Make sure that you mention a difficult word that's going to crop up a lot. So for me, I always put in my name, Stephen Sonsino, because what you want is to see in the transcription that comes back, because you're going to post this as a test. In the transcription that comes back, you want to see that they've spelt your name. Now, you don't tell them in advance. You want to see if they go on the web and find you, or if it's a difficult country or a difficult city. You want to see they have the wherewithal to figure things out for themselves. So a couple of little, really tricky little things that you can include in your audio. So 1-minute MP3 audio, so that later when you post your job or your request for a job, you can say, here's a test piece and I'd like you to do the transcription. I'll give you another example on that, or we'll do a written detail on getting the transcriptions done later on, so that you've got all the information about how to do that. But transcriptions, absolutely critical. So, quick recap. You need 20 research conversations. Who are you going to talk to? You need 4 or 5 case studies, examples, great examples of how successful you've been, how much you've helped people. The interviews that you do, the case studies and the research conversations, you need to get them transcribed. So start the process of finding a person, someone, an agency who can do transcriptions for you. Upwork, you can specify how much you're prepared to pay, a rate for the job. I give a flat fee. I pick a figure that I'm prepared to pay, and then anybody who elects to take the job on, let's say 20 interviews, or 10 interviews, or 5 interviews if you want to batch them that way, then you can limit your costs. You know in advance how much your costs are going to be. So that, I think, quickly deals with the interview structure in terms of how many conversations, how many people you need to talk to. These 20 people, by the way, you don't have to speak to them all this week. You just need to identify them this week so that you can start to segment them and interview them over the coming weeks. Let me just flip over to something that's been happening this week in London. This week in London has been the London Book Fair, and it's where I go to update my knowledge, to make new contacts in the industry of publishing and printing, digital distribution, and all the amazing things that go on in our industry. So what you'll see if you go to London Book Fair is a massive exhibition. It's like an aircraft hangar full of stands, and people like Amazon, Kindle, Audible, the people who do audiobooks, they're all there. So what I have done is I went this week over 3 days to the Amazon, to the London Book Fair, and I've arranged to meet a bunch of different people. I went to the Insight seminar. Computer doesn't like me today. That's because I'm streaming. It's because I'm streaming. That's why it's going really weird. And my typing isn't so good today. So at Author Headquarters, there are a lot of seminars where you could see people speaking and sharing the benefits of their expertise, a lot of one-to-ones going on, and a detailed seminar program. So what I've done this week is go along for 3 days, meet a ton of new people, meet a bunch of really good friends that I've met over the years, and I've now scheduled my 20 research interviews. In fact, far more than that. So started now I'm back from the show, putting out email requests to say, great to see you again at the show. Nice to meet you for the first time at the show. Can we arrange a time to speak? So I'm scheduling my 4 or 5 interviews a week for the next 3 or 4 weeks. And that way, the book fair has basically brought me completely up to date, has given me a ton of people that I need to include comments from and information from in the book, all in one hit. So I urge you, when you're thinking about writing your book, and I think I touched on this in the last live stream, if you're thinking of writing a book, choose the time to research it when there's an industry conference or an industry exhibition that serves your community, that you're going to go to anyway. Pick that as an ideal time to start the research process. So the London Book Fair has been absolutely brilliant for Jackie and me. So that, I think, really wraps up the content creation in terms of who you're going to include. Something else in terms of content creation, in partly planning the later phases, you need to be thinking about printers. I urge you, who's going to print your book if you're taking charge of the process yourself? And that's what we recommended last week, if you remember. So you need to make a short list of local printers, local digital printers, people who'll get your book out. The reason I recommend somebody local, certainly within a couple of 100 miles, is that you won't get stung with large transportation costs. You're not going to be printing many books, but you do want them to be sent to you. If you're like us, you have seminars, you want to give them out to your key clients and contacts. So local printers, pick 4 or 5, go see them if you have the opportunity. You want to meet them, you want to create a strong relationship with them so that if things go wrong at the wrong time, you can actually lean a little bit on that friendship and they'll help you out. Get a couple of quotations. You want to print, perhaps say a print run of 100 tops for the first test, if you like. You can go to 50 if you want. We're talking about digital printing here, so you can do these small run, low run quantities, and that's absolutely fine. You don't want to print 20,000. You don't even want to print 10,000. That would be outrageous. Your desk would be up near the ceiling. So print run of 50 to 100, your call. Get some print quotations from local printers. Some people talk about arranging printing in a different country, perhaps in India or China. That really is only going to serve you if you're talking about many, many copies of the book. So whatever country you're in, wherever you are, print locally. Top recommendation. Books will probably be delivered to your office, or perhaps to your home. In terms of getting the book out there, once it's written downstream, you have to decide what is your basic bookstore going to be, which platform, where will you sell from? And I'm not talking about bookshops here, bookstores in the high street where you live. I'm talking about book platforms. What I mean is Amazon. Pick Amazon for starters. You're going to put your book on Amazon. So you might want to start thinking about creating an Amazon page for your book. You may then create an Amazon author page for you that talks a little bit about you, who you are, and your background. And we'll get to these at the right point over the next couple of weeks. So, bookstore distribution. Amazon is the £800 gorilla in the market. You really need to have your book on Amazon. What you might not know is that Amazon can print your book for you. They used to have a service called CreateSpace. You upload your Word document or a nicely even better designed document than that, and they would, if a customer ordered it, if a reader ordered it, they would print it that night and ship it to them in the morning. So here's the Amazon CreateSpace website. It's an Amazon company, and what would happen is you upload your content onto Amazon and they would print it on demand. What's happened recently, fairly recently, is that they've sort of merged it with their Kindle, their online book. So Kindle is the digital delivery service. Amazon CreateSpace was the physical. They would physically create a book. It's possible if you've recently ordered a book from Amazon, if you look inside the inside back cover, if it says printed by Amazon, then that was a print on demand. So Amazon can print your book on demand. It's now under the Kindle Direct Publishing brand, KDP, so you can go find it at kdp.amazon.com. Worth taking a look at. So, half a step back. You can print it hardback or paperback at a local printer, or you can put the electronic copy onto Amazon and your readers can still get a hard copy, paperback or hardback. So we'll do that over the next few weeks. We'll actually load this book up onto one or other of these platforms. But right now, all I need you to be thinking about is, do you want to have tangible physical copies that you will hand out to clients or visitors, or to give out at meetings, or to give out at workshops, to coaching clients, to could be anybody? Why do you want to give these books out? And we touched on that last week. I hope you thought about why you want to have books. So, one other thing to vaguely think about, do you want to distribute your books into other territories? In other words, do you want to translate your book into German or French or Arabic? We've done all of those. So think about, in the back of your mind, do you want to get your book out into other languages? Do you want to look for translators, possibly on Upwork? Maybe you have a friendly translator. Think about the technical nature of your business. It may be that some of the words and phrases you might use are beyond the average translator. You may need somebody who's a contact in that country that you know, that is in your industry. So I want you to start thinking about possible translations. This is important if you want to break into a new geographic market, or if the market that you serve is principally a non-English speaking territory that you want to break into. So this week is very much about the start of content creation, and I've just quickly sketched out 10 things that you want to be thinking about. You want to be thinking about who are the 20 people that over the next 3 to 5 weeks you're going to interview. Create an Excel spreadsheet of 20 names of people you want to interview. Some you'll know because you're bringing your knowledge up to date. Some you won't know, and you'll need to introduce yourselves to them. Make sure you pick a couple of rock star people that you really want to connect with. This is a great opportunity to build your personal network, however fantastic your network already is. Think also about 3 to 5 case studies or examples, people you've helped in the past, because showing other members of your community that you've already done what they need, nothing like it. It's far better to demonstrate how successful other people are than to say, yeah, we can do that. Much better. Have you thought about transcriptions? So you're going to have in total 25 at least hours of interviews, probably. So you need to think now about finding someone that can transcribe those for you. Create a little test, a little exam, so that you can make a judgment about the 3 or 4 people who might apply for your project on the Upwork platform. Think about printers. Can you find a local printer? So we're thinking about ahead now. Are you going to print locally? Are you going to print digitally on demand using Amazon CreateSpace? You can also, by the way, let's take a look at this one. You can also use Ingram Spark, originally in the US, but you can do this anywhere now. Ingram Spark have an amazing online thing called Ingram Spark Academy. They'll actually help you through the process. Most of these online systems are fantastic. You just register, post your manuscript, choose where you want it to go. I think Ingram Spark has a small fee for uploading, but if you pick the right time, there's some deal that, and we're only talking $50, something like that. So it's not a big deal. So Ingram Spark and Amazon, I would do both. I would register your text with both. Amazon is the platform, the shop front that you will sell through. Ingram Spark is a way of creating your manuscript and they will also ship to Amazon, but they can also get it, your book, into some physical bookstores if you want that, into Barnes and Noble, for example. I'm racing through this. We'll go into this in much more detail later on, but your choice right now is print locally, hardback, paperback, print digitally through Amazon and Ingram Spark. Those are your two calls. And there's no reason why you couldn't do both later on. I'm just sketching it all out for you here. We're going to do both. We are going to print, so we have a local printer. We're going to print 100 copies, and I'll share with you the physical size and examples of what that printer has done a little bit later on when we're a little bit close to that process. We're going to go on Amazon. We're probably going to ship them some of the printed copies that we've created. We might not use CreateSpace on this occasion, but we're definitely going to be using Ingram Spark. So we're just sort of exploring that. It's changed recently. We want to make sure that it's still running as smoothly as it ever did. So we'll share our experiences with that a little bit later on. Print run about 100 hard copies for us here in the UK. Foreign language rights, not planning to do foreign language on this occasion for us, but that's about it. So, research conversations, 20 names already done, 5 invitations to case study examples already done, gone out from us. Transcriptions, we have a preferred transcriber, so I'll just let them know that they're about to get 25 something interviews scheduled over the next 3 to 4 weeks, and we'll make sure that starts properly. The printers, the local printers, is expecting a book from us in about 12 weeks time, as long as I can keep to schedule, and that'll be fine. So then we're now going to be looking at registering on Ingram Spark, making sure that the book is registered, gets a barcode, all of those things. So it's starting now. The process is really starting. Let me show you where we're at with the book. You remember we said last week you should write the table of contents and things like that. You're going to start finding, let me get my computer loaded up. Having to live stream and show my computer is causing some jiggery-pokery here in London. It's just thinking about it. Excuse me, the perils of live television. I know it's not, so don't worry about that. Let's configure recording. We don't need that, we just need to do that. Bear with me, it's coming. 3, 2, 1, bingo. Okay, so over the next few weeks, you're going to start getting table of contents, your drafts, research notes. So you need to be very careful that you keep track of everything on your computer. So what I've done is I've set up a folder. I put it into Dropbox. Strong recommendation. Get a Dropbox account or whatever other backup service, cloud service you use. Absolutely essential. You cannot afford to lose anything from here on in. So make sure you have whatever backup service you like. Dropbox does perfectly well for me. So I start using folders. It's absolutely imperative that you keep track of everything. So you should write a book as the core folder. Here's a general research folder. So in the early days, I just sort of throw everything, notes, scribbled notes, documents, things I've downloaded into this early general research folder. I use a numerical numbering system so that I keep my folders in order. So I use 00 for the start, for the top, then 01, 02, group things into folders like that. At some point, this general research folder is going to get so unwieldy very quickly that too will need folders, 00, 01, 02, whatever. Keep track, whatever your filing system is, absolutely stay on top of it, because otherwise you will never find anything. It's already week 1, week 2, I'm already losing stuff. So 01 is you know what, you should write a book. It's a great title. I love it to bits. But the acronym, to keep it short, YSWAB, Y-S-W-A-B, YSWAB, I don't know. You got to use something to kind of keep track of it. So this is our first draft folder. So here is the blurb that we originally wrote last week. And if the application Microsoft Word can't be opened, why? Why can't Microsoft Word be opened? open with Microsoft Word. Let's use an older version. It can't be open. I cannot believe this. I can't show you my blurb. Let's try something else. Let's try and open the table of contents. This could be a much shorter live stream. The application, Microsoft Word, can't be opened. I apologize. So what I'll do is I'll share with you, on pain of death, an early version of our table of contents. This is just insane. Let me close the folder down. You can see I've been working on a video. I wonder if the video is causing opening normal. Talk amongst yourself for a minute. Here we go. Something's happening. Oh, something's coming up. Very good. Let's try and open it. So I'm going in, opening the program, and now hopefully opening the table. I just wanted to show you that I've done my homework. So while that's coming up, I just wanted to show you, we've got a blurb, we've got the table of contents, we've actually started writing the first couple of chapters, the introductory chapters. We'll talk more about that later on. Okay, up into Dropbox or YSWAB. Here we go. You should write a book. First draft, blurb. Come on. I have no idea why Word is just not opening this. Word cannot open this document. The document might be in use. No. It might not be a valid Word document. It is. Or the file name might contain invalid characters. I don't do that sort of thing. I'm so sorry. This is embarrassing. So I want you to go back. Make sure that you have your title, your blurb, your table of contents. Start making some initial notes on that. The point is, store them in Dropbox. Make sure that you don't lose the material. What I want you to be thinking about is for next week, week 3, which is called More Content Creation, you're going to be having to identify some of the people that you've listed this week in your research conversations on your Excel spreadsheet. I want you to pick 4 or 5 of those, or 4 or 5 of them will come to fruition. Make sure that next week you schedule 4 to 5 interviews, 30-minute, 45-minute, hour-long calls at some point over the week, perhaps at the weekend if you can't squeeze them all in during the week. My best recommendation to you is, if you can, schedule a complete afternoon or a complete day and blitz them during the day. That would be a fantastic way to get these done, so that you have all of your material in one place. Also, what you find is, as you do one interview, the questions that you're going to ask become a little easier, because each interview, it becomes clear in your mind the sorts of things that you want to ask to get the information from the person that you're interviewing. What's the latest thinking? What's the most useful advice you can give to someone in this situation? I find that when you bulk up the interviews together in an afternoon, over a day, then your interviewing becomes better, the process becomes more streamlined, and that actually you can achieve more and more in a more focused way than you can if you do one over here at 3 o'clock, one over there at 2 o'clock. But I appreciate the people you're speaking to, their diaries may not exactly match yours, but see how it goes. To be honest, you'll find that when you say you're writing a book, they will move heaven and earth to speak to you, because so few people have appeared in a book. It's amazing how flattering it is to the ego to be asked to speak and share your knowledge. So don't obsess too much, and don't be too nervous about asking for people to be interviewed. They will want to be interviewed. Don't worry about that. Next week we'll talk a bit more about the artwork. It's time to start commissioning the artwork. We touched on the cover mock-up last week, just to give you a sense of what it looks like. We'll do a bit more work on that next week. We'll set up your Amazon account next week, your Ingram Spark account next week, and we'll talk about your Amazon author page, which is your online web presence for you as an author. And we'll also talk a bit more about your website. We talked last week about reserving the domain name. Next week, we'll talk about setting up the website. And by next week, I will have straightened out these technical problems and I'll show you the table of contents. I might put a link to that somewhere else. So that is about it. We're still in the middle. We're in the middle of the first phase, which is research and creating the content for the book. You should now, this week, over the next week, identify 20 people to speak to, 4 or 5 case studies. You might want to start sending out invitations to book those interviews, those discussions. What we'll be doing is basically seeing this through over the next 3 to 6 weeks. If you have to take a little bit longer over this, I get it, that real life has to carry on. But if you can keep focused on this and maybe try 4 to 5 interviews, so an hour a day for a week at a time, you will get this done. You'll get this content. And let me share with you what that means. It means if you do 5 interviews of an hour each one will generate 8,000 words of copy, of material that could be in your book. Examples, quotes, opinions, so stories, most importantly, stories. So 8,000 words in 1 hour's interview is awesome because your book is going to be 70,000 words anyway. Now, you're not going to use all 8,000 of those words, but in a week, 1 hour a day, 5 times 8, it's 40,000 words you will generate in the next week or so just by doing 5 hours of interviews. Now, you're going to edit those down, of course you are. But the week after, you're going to do another 5 interviews, I hope. And the week after, maybe another 5. In total, you're going to do 20 interviews over the next, I don't know how long you're going to take over this. So 20 interviews, each of 8,000 words, that's 160,000 words. Can you see how in just 20 hours, you're going to create the backbone of your book will be there in these interviews. Now, you're going to shape it. You're going to put your experience on top of that. But right here, we're breaking the back of this book project that you might have thought was going to take too long to put together. This research process, doing these interviews, will reduce your anxiety about getting this done. Once you've got your 20 interviews, the book is almost done. You just got to make sure that you ask the right kinds of questions. You structure the interview in the right kind of way. And we'll also talk a bit more about that next week. What does an ideal interview look like? How can you ask really pertinent questions? And how do you make sure that you don't look like a dork? Technical term, that you look professional and that you really convey, especially with men and women that you haven't interviewed before, that you want to demonstrate your expertise to, that you're professional and that you're on at their level of in the industry, in the profession. So we're just starting the process of content creation, capturing interviews. We're right in the middle of getting this done. And can you see how even now in week 2, if you follow this process, you will have this done in next to no time and not the 2 years length of time that you thought this might have taken. That's it for now. So we've done week 1. You've got your book concept lined up, the title, table of contents. I'll show you ours next week. Week 2, we're now into planning the content creation. 20 research interviews, 5 case studies. Where are you going to print? Locally, hardback, softback, online, Amazon, Ingram Spark. I suggest both. Do you need to get it translated? You need to think about that a little bit in advance. Because next week, we're going to actually start the interviewing and discussion process. So get those interviews booked in now. I'm enjoying this. It's holding us accountable. If I could, I'd show you our homework. I'll show it to you next week, just so you can see what we're doing. And next week, we'll also look again at the artwork situation. And we'll also register with the online printing services. So everything is beginning to come together. I look forward to seeing you on next week's live stream. That's it. If you're serious about doing this, you will carve out 4 or 5 hours next week to do these interviews, but you need to start booking them now. I'll talk to you again very soon. Take care. Word. I hate Word.